Welcome to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
So today we're digging into a YouTube video transcript. It's from that channel, Warren Hoyuni.
Yes, I saw that one. It focuses pretty tightly on the Pi network ecosystem, doesn't it?
It does. Specifically, it looks at claims around a platform in Indonesia.
And this whole idea about the Pi currency maybe having different values.
Exactly that. The transcript brings up two main individuals. First, Dimas Nawawi.
Right, the author of an ex-post or article that the video discusses.
And then there's Louis Redwan. He's identified in the source as a manager or maybe deputy manager at this Indonesian platform.
Okay, got it. So our mission today basically is to unpack exactly what this source claims.
Yeah, focusing on that platform, how it supposedly accepts Pi and this concept of a dual value.
Let's get into the details then. What does the source actually say?
Okay, so first up, the platform itself. It's called Indo PiNet Mart.
And the source describes it as what, an e-commerce site or trading?
Yeah, basically an online marketplace in Indonesia.
And the key thing is it reportedly takes Pi network currency.
Right, and that's where Louis Redwan comes in, supposedly in a management role there.
Now, the source makes a pretty big claim about what they trade, doesn't it? Something about real estate.
It does. It says they deal in real estate with house prices starting, get this, from 0.35 Pi.
Wow, okay. But priced how?
Priced at what the source keeps calling the GCV, the global consensus value.
Ah, the GCV. Okay. And the source kind of holds up Indo PiNet Mart as like proof GCV is working.
Yeah, it frames it as a platform supporting GCV and, a source of pride for Indonesia and the Pi community.
Interesting. And where does this info mainly come from, according to the transcript?
It seems to stem largely from a phone call.
A phone call. Between who?
Between Dimas Nawawi and Louis Redwan. That's the report.
Okay, so a direct conversation
Right.
on what was supposedly said.
Well, this is the crucial part. According to the account in the transcript, Louis Redwan confirmed a really specific policy.
About how they accept Pi on Indo PiNet Mart.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
well, it's quite something.
This leads right into that dual value idea, I bet.
It does. The transcript quotes Louis Redwan, or reports him as saying that Indo PiNet Mart only accepts Pi that comes from, quote, mining contributions.
Only from mining contributions. So like the Pi you earn yourself through the app.
That seems to be the implication. Pi earned through mining, maybe KYC, migrating your balance, that kind of origin.
And that type of Pi is linked in this report to having GCV advantages, whatever that means exactly.
All right. And the flip side?
The source is really clear on this, based on Radwan's reported words. Pi that comes from exchanges.
Yeah.
Not accepted. Period.
So if you bought Pi on some external market, Indo PiNet Mart, according to this account, wouldn't take it.
Exactly. And the source jumps right on this distinction. It presents it as direct evidence for a dual value.
Meaning one value for exchange-traded Pi and another potentially higher or more useful value.
With these GCV advantages for Pi that comes directly from the network's contribution mechanisms like mining.
Okay, that's a fascinating claim. But how? How would a platform technically even know where the Pi came from?
Good question. The source actually touches on that. It mentions the Pi Network SDK.
The software development kit for developers.
Yeah. The transcript suggests the SDK, maybe through its API interfaces, the connections, it can supposedly detect or distinguish the origin.
So the tech itself could potentially tell if Pi was mined versus bought, like a flag or something.
That's what the source implies, yeah. It suggests this technical feature is what allows the platform to enforce this very specific acceptance rule.
Right. That makes a bit more sense, technically at least. And this all ties back to GCV, again, in the source's story.
Absolutely. The pricing, like that 0.35 Pi house example,
is stated to be based on GCV.
And Dimas Nawawi, the author discussed in the video, he apparently takes this confirmation from Louis Redwan.
About only accepting mined Pi and the GCV advantages.
And uses it to argue that GCV is, well, the future, that it's going to win out for Pi Network.
The source even mentioned a year, didn't it? 2025.
Yeah, it drops 2025 into that context, suggesting a time frame for GCV becoming dominant based on this perspective.
So from Dimas Nawawi's viewpoint, as presented in the transcript, this conversation with the manager is like the smoking gun.
Pretty much. He reportedly sees it as solid confirmation of the dual value idea he supports.
And uses it to push back against doubters.
Exactly. The transcript says he directly challenges people who don't buy the dual value concept, using this Indo PiNet Mart example as his proof.
Okay, let's quickly recap the core points from this specific source.
All right. We've got Indo PiNet Mart in Indonesia.
Described as an e-commerce platform taking Pi.
Oh, and this is the key claim. Only Pi for mining or contributions like KYC and migration.
Because that Pi supposedly has GCV advantages.
This policy was apparently confirmed by a manager, Louis Radwan, in a call with Dimas Nawawi.
And the source suggests the Pi Network SDK is the tool, the tech, that could potentially make this distinction possible.
So, thinking about this account, just what this one source presents, what does it tell us?
Well, it suggests at least one platform, according to this report, is trying to treat Pi differently based on where it came from.
Yeah, it raises this idea that Pi might not be completely, fungible in all contexts within the ecosystem, that its history could matter to some vendors or platforms.
And how that history might be perceived to affect its value or usefulness, at least within their specific setup.
Right. It's a very specific view from one source, but it makes you think.
It definitely does. Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, based on this particular account.
The source claims a tool like the SDK can distinguish Pi based on its origin.
So imagine for a moment, what if that became widespread? What if many platforms started using tech to check if Pi was mined or bought on an exchange?
And then treated it differently based on that.
What could the implications be for the whole Pi network? How might that actually shape the way Pi is used, how people see its value, and whether it's truly interchangeable everywhere?
Something to definitely mull over. How would that affect its journey towards, say, open mana or wider acceptance if different types of Pi started emerging based on origin tracking?
Lots to consider there.